Trying to hold my body down in a crib. Trying to hold my body down. Trying to get up out of the ground. Trying to hold my body down. Right, let's do this. So I'm gonna we'll see if nobody's come in. I thought someone would come in, but this is a live stream video. Okay, Floss, New Zealand Lamb Warrior. Going to do a live video here, and we're putting it out there for I'll put up here Queen Sophia. It's going to be on here, and I'm going to be recording this, but don't worry about it. I'll record it, and you'll be able to come back later if you want to and see all of the documents that I'm going to put up for you. But this one here, I'm going to put it on as the live video for you, and we're going to be reclaiming Kate Floss's rightful inheritance. Yes, I see you, Brent. Right, I've got you, Brent. So everybody come in. I've only put this up as a you know what I'm going to try and do? I'm going to try and put this up as a Zoom. I think I can put it on. I might try and do that first, because then I'll be able to show my papers, and you'll be able to see if the papers. Let's go and see if I can do that. Schedule meeting. Right, hang on. I'll see if I can put this up for you, Brent. So stay with me. I'm just trying to get this sorted out. I've got a hot video, but I'd like for you all to see it, really. And it'd be much better if we could see it. What's the time over there, Brent? Do you know? So 2:30, 3:30. I've heard the I usually show more than my papers, Norm. But it's only my papers today. But hang on, it's 7 o'clock. So this one's got 8 o'clock. I'll put in here 7 o'clock. I'll see if I can put it up. Right, and then meeting. I'm going to try and put it up as a he's talking about the Nazis. You can talk about the Nazis. Nothing wrong with the Nazis. There's nothing wrong with them. You've got it all wrong. You've got it all back to front. I don't know what's going on, but I'm German. So I'll call myself a German because I'm coming in to make my rightful claim today over all you people. All you people. And so just wait till I get this. I'm going to get this started. Now, what happens? All right, I've started this Zoom. Let's see what we can do here because, right, and then I launch the meeting. Join from the browser. Oh, shoot. I've got the video started, but I can't do all that. I can't do that, but I think I've got to, I forgot to share it. Hang on, you just have to, just give me a minute because I'm going to, I can copy the invitation. Right here, let's see if I can put this invitation. Right, there's the invitation up there. Right, can you see that? And then I take out all of the numbers. Right, can you all get into that meeting or not? Well, can you see that? See if I can show you my papers. But if I can't show you my papers, then there, can you get into that meeting there, Brent? Right, see if you can come into that meeting. Hang on, I'm just opening it. Right, there you go. See if you can come into the meeting now. There. All right, that's how I'm going to do it. All right. So for all you people that are on YouTube, if you can't do it, then I'm going to be on my meeting here. So if you're able to enter, you can send me a note. Yeah, can you see my shared zooming there, Brent? Are you still there? You can come into my Zoomy, I think. Or not. Brent, answer me. Brent. Brent. Where are you? Brent. Are you gone? Ah, there you are. There, and then turn on your camera. All right, so anybody can come in. Brenton, I can't turn on your camera, Brent. All right, there he is. All right, there's Brent. So I'm going to be doing the Zoom. So you can turn your camera off now because I don't want you in my video. But anybody can come into the Zoom. If you're on my live feed, you can just join into my Zoom. Right, today is going to be a live. This is a live affidavit, okay? And I don't want to be seeing you. Hide self view. Hide non-video participants. No, that's not right. Right, hide your screen, Brent, because I want to be the star. Right. It's not a joining in video. This is not a joining in video. It's an affidavit. It's not a joining in video. Turn your camera off. I don't want anybody's cameras on. Get out, 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 or I'll have to block you. I don't want any. I'm doing an affidavit. It's very serious. Right, I'm going to do an affidavit today. Right, this is the affidavit. What? Now you've ruined my video. I don't want to see your picture. Right. Okay. So we're doing an affidavit video, and this video, maybe you should. You can't see my papers if you're in the YouTube, can you? Okay. Well, I'm going to do this affidavit video. So I'll put it into the share screen. And I'm going to go to my Windows, and then I'm going to go to the naturalization. No. I'm going to go to this one, Sophia. All right. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go to Share, Windows, and then I'm going to go to Sophia. Right. We're going to start with Right. Can you see that? All right. So the affidavit video, this is I feel like I need to shut it down and just start again. All I can see is your name up on the screen, Brent. All right. So the affidavit today, can you see the Sophia's picture up there, Brent? Can you see that? Do you see the picture of Sophia up there? Brent. All right, so you can't see you, right? All right, you see the picture of Sophia. All right. So this is an affidavit. I can't hear you. Just type it in. Type it in. Okay. So apparently they can see that up there on the screen. So I can't see it though. Gallery view. All right, that's better. All right, now I can see mine, and then I can see the view. I can't see the view up there. Okay, so this is the affidavit, and what I talked to you about today is the personal union. What does it mean to be a personal union? That is when the two states have the same monarch, but each boundaries, laws, interests are distinct from each other. This is called a personal union. What used to happen in the olden times? Now what? I didn't want you there. You're ruining my whole video. It's been ruined. Two states. So in the olden times, when two countries between Germany, France, England, Scotland, and Ireland, they often were sharing kings, and these sharing kings were called personal unions, where one country, or there were two states, would be governed, would have one monarch, but each of their boundaries was distinct, their laws was distinct, and their interests were distinct. The decolonization, what all decolonization means is a government where the governance of one country enters into another country that has no governance, so that country agrees to be almost like a proxy governance for that country until that country can create their own laws and enter into their own laws. It's called decolonization. Is simply removing the laws of one country and putting them to the other. Now, where ex-colonies, I have to record that too. All right. Okay. So where ex-colonies, the decolonization. Decolonization is where ex-colonies install the monarch of the former colonizing power as their own upon becoming independent. So this is what's going on in our countries now, is that they're presently trying to remove the British royal power from Australia, England, and Australia, England, and Australia, England, and New Zealand, they're trying to remove England from Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and America. And then what they're trying to do is to make a huge land grab of the entire countries and put it all into the hands of their ex-leaders, their ex-kings and queens, or whoever they were. That's what decolonization means. And they want to, where ex-colonies install the monarch of the former colonizing power as their own upon becoming independent, the British Empire to the Commonwealth to nothing. So, John, this is what various people are doing. Is they're trying to return the monarch back to John Augustus Ernst. So that's what they want to return. Now he is married, presently married to Princess Caroline over from Monaco, and he lost his throne at the time. I'm going to explain to you about this split that occurred between the kings, and then Queen Victoria, and then King Ernest Augustus, and the split that occurred. And then I'm going to show you how that comes down through our family. So I better get going. So this is a personal union where one monarch governs over 2 or 3 or 4 countries. They're the head, but the countries govern themselves, but they act as the head. And then decolonization is when you remove that head and you put back the originating power that was there. It could have been a late established king or anything like that. Now, countries that were under a personal union with the monarch of Britain, Canada since 1867, Australia since 1901, New Zealand since 1907, Scotland since 1689, and Ireland's just all over the place. You can't even understand where they're going. Now, I'm going to go down to the bloodlines to you. The Hanover electorate was lasted until 1814. Now, in 1814, Samuel Marsden turned up in New Zealand from England. He came out of England in around about 1789 or 1798, around about that time. And in 2014, Samuel Marsden turns up in New Zealand. And the Hanover electorate became a kingdom in its own right in 1814. The Britain kingdom descends from, so there's two kingdoms here. We had the Hanover kingdom from Germany, and then we had a British kingdom that was in the middle of being established, all right? Now, so the British kingdom was descended from George Louis of Hanover. George the First, 1714, George the Second, 1727, George the Third, 1760, and George the Fourth, 1820 to 1837. And then it went to William the Fourth. This is the one that Johann Wanoa is always talking about. William the Fourth, and his flag is under King Augustus. Now, I'll get to that in a minute. So 1830 to 1837 was William the Fourth. And in 1837, the line split, and Queen Victoria's line got England, and King Augustus, he got Germany, and he got over there, Germany, Prussia, areas like that. I'm not going to go into the deep details, but I just want to explain to you a very rudimentary idea of how all of this came to be, where we're in the position where we are today. Now, Queen Victoria went on a different line, and she, if they went through the correct lines, a female was not permitted to ascend to the line, but they changed it and they allowed her to ascend to the line. And then in the Augustus line, he was not allowed to ascend any of his daughters to the line. He only got the male line. So after that, William the Fourth ruled both kingdoms. So William the Fourth ruled both the Hanover kingdom, and he also ruled the United Kingdom's realm as well. And then now if you look in here, in George the Third ruled from 1760 to 1820. So George the Third come before William the Fourth. Okay, so that's George the Third came before George the Fourth. Now you have to be careful that you don't get these mixed up. All right. So George the Fourth ruled until from 1820 until 1837, and George the Fourth in 1820 is when the Maori language came to be written, and it's 1820 when both those New Zealand Maoris were sitting over there in over in England there. The King of Hanover came to power on the 12th of October of 1814. So what had happened was William the Fourth passed away. It came to power 1830 to 1837, and his line passed on to Queen Victoria. So Queen Victoria inherited her line from William the Fourth, right? And Ernst Augustus succeeded his line also under William the Fourth. So there's two monarchs came out of the one monarch, is what they had created, all right? And all this was occurring between the years of 1814, or just a bit previous to that anyway. It all started with George Louis of Hanover, who was George the First. That was 1714. Then George the Second, 1727, right? And then George the Third, 1760. Just previous to the 1688 Will and Mary, and where everybody was made subjects. And then in George the Fourth, 1820 to 1837, and who was over on the Augustus line. So George the Fourth went over to the Augustus line, and then William the Fourth, who came in, and he would go on to create the Queen Victoria line. So they went to have two different lines here. Now, how did they do that? What did they decide from that? What they created is that one line was going to hold all the lands, and one line would hold all the labor. The labor of the people is what created the values of the land. If there was no labor of the people, then there was no value to the lands. That is exactly what happened. Now, the issue of the last king of Hanover, I know you're not going to keep it. Don't try and remember all the kings' names. All you've got to remember is that we had one king, and then from that king split two lines. One line went into England and Britain, and one line went into Hanover and Prussia and Germany and all of that. So that's all you've got to remember, is that we've got two lines. And then what you've got to remember is that the Augustus line through King William the Fourth, the Augustus line entered into New Zealand and Australia in around about 1814. They entered, and Queen Victoria wasn't born yet. So that's exactly what had happened, is King William the Fourth had entered into New Zealand. Queen Victoria is not born yet. She's born in 1820, right? And in the meantime, and then the Augustus line of Hanover comes off of King William. When Queen Victoria was born, the King William line passed on to her, all right? And then that's where this split occurred in New Zealand. There was a huge war, a huge uprising, and a huge battle in New Zealand, where the Hanover line, Augustus, was fighting with the Victorian line to get that ownership of that throne. That's all the battle that was going on. Now, what had happened next? So that's all you've got to remember, that those two lines started battling in all the different countries around the world. So George V of Hanover, his name was called, now these names are going to be significant because you'll see them later, George Friedrich Alexander Karl Ernst August, and his reign was from 1851, he was born 1819 to 1878, but his actual reign as a monarch was 1851 to 1866. And from his birth, there was Ernest Augustus, the Crown Prince of Hanover, and he was born 1845 to 1923, and his reign was 1878 to 1923. Ernst Augustus Wilhelm Adolf George Friedrich Now, remember this Friedrich, all right? My grandfather became a dyed rich, but it was a Friedrich that entered New Zealand in 1843. George, to which I'm the only pure blood descendant, yeah. George Wilhelm, the hereditary Prince of Hanover, was born of Ernst Augustus, and he was born 1915 to 2006, and he died. And then he had Prince Ernest August of Hanover, 1914 to 1987. Now, this is Ernst Augustus von Hanover, his tenure, and then Ernst Augustus married Princess Caroline over in Monaco. So they're still alive today. And this is the throne that Johann Manoa and all of his cronies down at the Marae want to pass all of our assets, all of our monies and everything, want to pass it all over to oh, you can't hear me? Oh, what? Can you hear me now? Jody, can you hear me? Yeah. How can everyone hear me? Right. I don't know if anyone can hear me. I'll just keep on as if you can hear me and see if I can. You'll probably be able to hear me on the. Can you hear me? All right. Stephen Heike can hear me. Right. You can hear me, but you have to join the. Right. Everyone can hear me. So I'm going to just leave that there. All right. Okay. So now where are we up to? We're down to Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover, and he is alive today. And then if you go back and you remember what I told you, I'll just recap. You told you about the personal union where 2 states or 3 states or 5 states all have one monarch. And then what does decolonization means is when you remove that monarch and you go back to your original monarch, and they're trying to take us back to the original monarch, which was not a Maori chief, because they were not only were they not monarchs, they were only kings or chiefs in their own area. So they weren't able to make them a king just now. All right. So none of these countries had kings. And so they're trying to take us back to that King Ernest Augustus von Hanover's tenure. Okay. Now, if you go on to, I've got my video on here, so I'm just I can people will see my video when I show it to them later. But if you're not in my YouTube, you won't be able to see it. But if you are in my YouTube, you'll be able to see it. Oh gosh, I've got to get that back up there. And just remember, I'm just an amateur here, so I'm just doing my my very best to show you this. All right. So if you go and see on the YouTube, what you'll see is George V. So here he is, George V of Hanover, and George V, whose name was, now listen to the name, George Friedrich Alexander Karl Ernst August. So he was 1819 to 1878. When all these wars were going on, he was around and involved with all of that. And then you can go and just Google George V of Hanover. I'm not going to read all of it, but all you need to do is click onto his son, his issue, all right? So the king of, I'm not going to do the Victoria line. I'm going to focus on the Hanover line because that's where you're all missing is the Hanover line. So Ernest Augustus, the crown prince, all right, of Hanover, and he was the crown prince from 1878 until 1923, and then his issue went down to Ernest Augustus, the Duke of Brunswick, and what had happened is that they had lost their line. So by the time they got to where did they lose their line? They completely the line ended. Let's see where it ended. I get a bit mixed up because there's a lot to tear, but anyway, the line of the Augustuses ended, and it ended up that they could only marry in. But if you go to the issue of Ernest Augustus, the Duke of Brunswick, and then his issue was Ernest Augustus, and listen to the name, Ernest Augustus Christian George, Ernst August Christian George, and then so he took over the next one. Here it is, and then in 1918, before 1918, that monarchy was abolished. So Ernest Augustus, from 1913 to 1918, their line of royalty was abolished, but the Victorian line was not abolished. And then that's what they're trying to do now with this personal union and the decolonization, is to move you out of the Victorian line and move you back into the Ernest Augustus male line. That's what they're trying to do. But when Queen Victoria came in, she set up a trust, and she said all of the labours of the land, 40% will go to the people, and then the lands and for doing all the things that they need to do to run their governments and run their kings, then 60% would go to them. And it was supposed to be a share because they realised that the labours of the people, that, hey, Vicky Kingy, they realised, I've got to keep going, mate, we're talking about Ernest Augustus, the labours of the kingdom were just as valuable as the land. The land is valueless. It's got absolutely no value unless you've got people working on it who create the commerce, who create the coinage, and who create the value of the land. And so Queen Victoria, that you have the male line and the female line. The male held the land and the female line held all of the trust monies, which was supposed to be used for all of us and for our wealths and healths and education, but they all got greedy. What they're presently trying to do is they're trying to get the Augustus land, full land line, and they're trying to get the Queen Victoria Trust line of the labours of the people and to combine them all into one person, and that's going to go into the AI. And that's why they've come up with the homosexuals, because you've got the male, which is the land of God, and then you've got the labours, which is the entity has already been birthed onto the land, and it's the labours that create the commerce on the earthly realm that sits together with, because there's no money in heaven, and God, there's no money in Almighty's God. So that they had to have the two. They had to have the male and then the birthing by the female. And then they've come in with these transvestites where this is exactly what they're doing. They want to combine the male and the female so that they become one entity that you don't know if it's a male and you don't know if it's a female, and they own the whole freaking lot. That's what they're up to, and that's what all this trans nature stuff that they're talking about, that's what it's all about. It's all about money. Now, let's get on to this. Now, I'm going to turn off Ernest Augustus. So the last monarch in the German line, the Hanover line, was Ernest Augustus, and then they abolished the line because the Prussians took over and there was wars and things like that. That line ended up marrying into the Prince and Princess of Monaco and Princess Caroline of Monaco, and the decolonization is to send us back to that line. Now I'm going to tell you something a little bit interesting here. We'll go down the lines here. So let's see here. We've got, so I'll stop that share. So we've got George V of Hanover, and that was the last king of Hanover. And then his name was George Friedrich Alexander Karl, and then he had a son. His son was Ernest Augustus, the Crown Prince of Hanover. And then he had a son, and his son was George Wilhelm, the hereditary Prince of Hanover. This is 2006. And then his son, who's married to Princess Caroline in Monaco, is Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover. And decolonization is removing the Victoria Trust and placing it into the hands of the first king, would have been the first king of New Zealand under King William IV, who separated the two kingdoms, and then the rightful heir of the, let's say, the right-hand kingdom over in Hanover, the heir of William IV was Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover, and over on the Victorian line, the present heir is King Charles, and they want to remove it all from King Charles and put it into the line of Augustus, and then who knows where they're going to take it from there. Ernest Augustus, the son of King George III, UK and Hanover, and his brother. So King George III, and then King George III was the reigning monarch of both the UK and of Hanover. So he was the monarch of two, right? Then he had the son, King William IV, and King William IV handed King William, rather than be the monarch of two, King William IV separated the two into two groups of people, Queen Victoria and Ernest Augustus of Hanover. And then, let's see, and then that ended the personal union. So that was the end of the personal union of the UK and Hanover. And then we're going over into the Hanoverian line, which I'm just telling you about. And then he married Frederica of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, and they had a son who was George V. Now, so this is the Hanoverian king. Get out of England. Get out of England. The Hanoverian king then married Frederica over in Hanover there, right? And then they had a son, George V, who has nothing to do with our Georges over in England, right? And then George V, as I've just told you, became the last king of Hanover, all right? But it doesn't mean he didn't continue to have sons. And Hanover was annexed by Prussia in 1851. Now, Hanover was annexed by Prussia in 1851, and what you're going to see from my Sixtus lines is that it all comes out of Prussia. My lines, I'm a direct descendant, and I'll go into that later. So just to do a recap, Ernest Augustus of Hanover, he's the House of Hanover until 1901, and then it became the Kingdom of Hanover, and the Kingdom of Hanover was until 1866, and then he presently is the husband of Princess Caroline, brother-in-law to Albert over in Monaco. All right. And now I want to talk to you about the going to go into something a little bit different, which is I want to talk to you about how they created the naturalization and all of these kinds of things. And so I'm put this as an affidavit. So that all came out of, I'll go to share screen. I don't know who can see my screen, but if you can see my screen, what you will see, oops, I should not do that. Right there. Right there. So you should be able to see my screen here, and then I'm showing it on my video as well. Oh, oops. Right there. So I'm just showing this. So this is Sophia. This is the Naturalization Act from Sophia, and it's not Sophie. Now there's a fake line in which is called Sophie, which is an IE, and then there's a fake line of Marie's, which is an IE, but the Sophia line is IA, and the Maria line is IA as well. So I'm just going to read this to you. You can Google it. The Sophia Naturalization Act of 1705. The Act for the Naturalization. I think I can copy this. Yes, I can. So I'll copy this into the chats, and you'll be able to go and look at it for anyone that wants to go and have a look at it. Right. So this is the Sophia the Act for the Naturalization of the Most Excellent Princess Sophia, Electress and Duchess Dowager of Hanover, and the issue of her body. They took her body as an empty vessel as an act of the Parliament of England in 1705. This is after the 1688 Will and Mary, and it followed the Act of Settlement 1701, whereby the Dowager Electress Sophia of Hanover and her Protestant, not Catholic, her Protestant descendants were declared to be in the line of succession to the throne of her son George I, who later became the king. So her son George I over in England became the king, but she was not born to England. And for her son to become the king and for her to be Queen Mother, she wanted to get into England. So they created the Act of Naturalization within the issue of her body. Now, you're not going to be knowing why this is important until I get to it, all right? So you have to wait for it. So she was the mother of King George I, and so because he was her son, he inherited the subject status through her. Sophia was the granddaughter of James VI of Scotland and James I of England. And she was not considered to be an English woman. So the Act naturalized her. Now it naturalized her, and the issue of her body, provided that they were not Catholic Johann Wanoa. As English subjects, any person, now listen here, any person born to a descendant of Sophia could claim to be the issue of her body. Yes, she's not allowed in there. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Why is Adern on top of all of them, the important people? Because I'm going to show you through my lines. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to you. but through my lines, they all stole my bloodlines, and it's all the wrong lines. There's what John Wano is trying to do. He's trying to get it back to the King Augustus line, and I'm with him. I'm with him on that issue, but I'm not with him that he says that he's the rightful king when he's not, because he's a Catholic. So he really can't be. He cannot be, because I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why, Johann. Johann, I'm going to be showing you. James, oh, okay, pay attention. So she got naturalized by the issue of her body. And so by the issue of her body, she said any person descended of Sophia could also claim to be the issue of her body. And that was how they were able to let the line become complete through George I, because they stripped her of any nationality that she held. They stripped it of her. They created an empty vessel. When they created the empty vessel, they created an issue into her body. They embodied her body with this 1688 will of Jesus into her body. And anybody descendant of the issue of her body could claim to be a subject and not a citizen. Now listen up, people. Are you a citizen or are you a subject? Because Justice Brown in the Court of Law of New Zealand, I went to the court and I said, I'm a subject. And Justice Brown said, you're not a subject, you're a citizen. And Justice Brown, I'm going to say to you and to all you New Zealand people, all you, anybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care what colour you are. If you don't want to be a New Zealand citizen, but you want to be protected under your 1688 subjects rights, which is very, very different from your citizenship right, because the natives are trying to get you under Augustus and they're trying to make you citizens under their rule, under the tikanga rule, under the Aotearoa rule. They're trying to make you citizens of that. And so I'm saying, no, not me. I've been to the court to call myself a subject. Now, how do I know that I'm a subject and I'm not a citizen? In 1947, Prince Frederick of Prussia. Now, remember that I told you the Frederick line. I can't really find it here, but it's hard for me to see the lines. But Prince Frederick of Prussia succeeded in a claim under the Act. He renounced his German citizenship. He absolutely renounced his German citizenship, right? And then the Act was repealed by the British nationality in 1948. So here it goes. In 1948, your subject status was removed from you if you were not born into England or Scotland and Ireland. And in Australia and Canada and all these countries, you became citizens, right? Every country you became a citizen. And Prince Frederick of Prussia, he fronted up to the court and he said that he renounced his German citizenship, and he said by the issue of Princess Sophia that he stood to claim as a subject, and as a subject he could inherit the throne of England. That's what we're talking about, the inheritance to the throne of England. Is it King Charles, or is it the Prince of Hanover? Is it him? So we've gone back to the split of the two lines, and the whole battle has been fought out right here in New Zealand. The Act was any non-Catholic descendants of the electors born, have a listen, before the repealing statute was enacted, had already automatically acquired the status of a British subject. So what they're saying is, so there are still people alive who can claim British nationality under the Sophia Naturalisation Act. and they tried to tell me in the court that I can't. This was tested by Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover in 1955 to 1957. Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover successfully claimed British nationality on this basis after considerable litigation, as he was born and he was a Protestant while the Act was still in force. The courts recognised that he had already required citizenship. The court said, you were born into citizenship and therefore you're a citizen of Germany and you're not allowed to be a subject. And he said that the repeal of the statute did not affect. Now, hang on here. Most people. That, oh, it doesn't say it here. So, oh, hang on, just let me find this. All right, here, it's here. Oh, okay. So the Sophia Naturalisation Act of 1705, it was a case called Attorney General versus Prince Augustus of Hanover. So I'll copy that link. Should be able to copy it. And then I should be able to post that into the links there. I don't know if that goes to a link, does it? No, it doesn't. All right, so I'll see if I can go to it. All right, here you go. So, just trying to help all you people. It's quite a hard video to follow. It's supposed to be only short. All right, so the Sophia Naturalisation Act 1705 provided that all children and descendants of Electress Sophia of Hanover shall be naturalised as British subjects. Then the Act was repealed in 1948, and they said that anybody born after 1948 became a citizen of that country, and you were no longer permitted to be a subject. But Prince Ernest Augustus of Hanover, a German citizen, but he had a linear descent of Electress Sophia. He sought a declaration, which is what I sought. That's what I went to court to do in New Zealand, to get a declaration to call myself a subject. The Judge Brown said, you're a citizen, you're not allowed to be a subject, and the Attorney General opposed the application, arguing that Parliament had not intended to naturalise a large number of remote descendants of Electress Sophia when it passed the Naturalisation Act of 1705. It was argued that the Act's preamble supported this interpretation. Now, this is going to have significant meaning to the Treaty of Waitangi preamble, because they keep going on about sections 1, 2, and 3, but it's the preamble in 1840 where we all got our subject status. Ernest Augustus protested it, and then he appealed it, and he went to the High Court. He went to the Appeals Court, and the Appeals Court reversed the High Court's decision. So the High Court said, you're a citizen, you cannot be a subject, even though you're descended from the issue of Queen Sophia, Princess Sophia's body. They said you're a German citizen. And then the Appeals Court reversed the decision. He said you're allowed to be a subject. The Attorney General appealed that to the House of Lords, and then the House of Lords agreed with the Appeals Court decision, and that the words of the 1705 Act clearly naturalised all the linear non-Catholic descendants, non-Catholic, not Catholic, of the Electress Sophia of Hanover, no matter where you are in the world, you're allowed to go into the court and get a declaration to claim your subject status. And that's what I tried to do. And they said, no, you can't. But I said, yes, I can. And I've only just found this recently. So then I want to go to show you the lines of where my bloodlines are. Okay, so you can go to the I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you the Sixtus line, German Naturalization Act. And so this is where my family, everyone's hearing about my family, but I'm going to show you because they're claiming at the marae. Now, this is an affidavit. This is an affidavit to Johann Wanoa and to all the people down at the marae. And this is an affidavit to say that I'm claiming my subject status and I claim to be the rightful heir from the issue of Princess Sophia, and I claim to be the right decolonization heir to if you want to go back to that line, it's not going to go into any transvestite. This can go directly into the issue of my body. I'm here to claim it. Now, here's the names here. Now, what you're going to see here, I'm going to show you something. The line is corrupted. The line is absolutely corrupted by these people here. Now what you see here is, can everybody, I shared the screen, and I don't know if you can get into this on the line there, but I'll post it up. But I'll be putting this video up later, so woohoo, Kate. Yeah, I am. We're going because we're a different. The Maoris too, because they're claiming that the New Zealand Maori are not the rightful heirs, but by their subject status, they are the rightful heirs. And it doesn't belong to those coconuts over on the islands either. It doesn't. They've got no claim to it. And it's the coconuts that are claiming to be the rightful heirs through Augustus. But I'm saying that you can't because it's the wrong line. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry to all you islander people, but it's just too bad because it's too bad if you're not in the issue, if you're not in the line, then you're just not. I can't help you. It's none of my. I can't help you. But here we go. You've got your Pope and stuff. Now here we go. Now what you'll see here is Lang, Conrad, Johann, Ferdinand, and that's his name. He was a smith and farrier, and he was married to. So his name is Conrad Johann Ferdinand Lang. Like think David Lang. He calls himself David Longy, but he reckons it's Longy, but not. I call it Lang. Now he married Marie with an I-E, Josephine Elizabeth. Marie Josephine Elizabeth Lang. Ferdinand married to her. Now let me just tell you something from her. She's the widow of the correct Sixtus brother who was descended from Prussia, a direct descendant from Prussia, and she was the widowed wife, and she had 5 Sixtus children. Those 5 Sixtus children are Johann Andreas Frederick Johann Sixtus, Christian Karl Johann Sixtus, Andreas Christian Johann Sixtus, and Heinrich Wilhelm Johann Sixtus, and Gottfried George Johann Sixtus. The 5 Sixtus brothers, but that man there, Conrad Johann Ferdinand, he's not their father. So the line to Sophia, to her issue is in the 5 Sixtus brothers, but Marie with an I-E, not an IA, an IE, Josephine Elizabeth. She's only the widow of Andreas Friedrich. She's only the widow. And here's where the illegal liners come in. Ferdinand married her, and he had a daughter, Johanna Sophia Dorothea. Now, Dorothea is going to be coming up in the courts of New Zealand in another video. I'm not doing it today, but remember that name, Dorothea, because the judge has ordered her to sit down. She's got to come in after me. And he had another one, Anna Maria, but she's the wrong line also, because that comes under Annie, Anne, that's me, Annie. So she had those two children. Now, he's come along later in another ordinance, and you know what? He's attached all his children onto the other ordinance, and he's pulled out the ordinance from the 5 Sixtus brothers. And that's why Jacinda Ardern and all of her cronies, all those wrong bloodlines, they're all in the parliament causing all this havoc. Tamaki, Sue Gray was hunting around my ancestry in 2012 and getting all the corrupted lines into their correct thing so that they could pass it over on the 26th of August. I protest. I'm the correct line. Now, so you've got here a false father and a false mother and false children, and then you've got the correct Sophia issue, which is the 5 Sixtus brothers. Now, I'm going to go on to that. I don't know if you can see. So did you see all that? I hope everybody's seen all that. Yes, can see, right? Everyone can see. Good. Right, so just stay with me. So the next one that we're going to go into, just leave that there in case I need it. So the next one that we're going to, so that was done in 1843. Now, I want to, I won't read you just that. I'm just going to show you these ordinances first. Okay, I'll show you the ordinances first, and then I'm going to show you the land claims, because that's what John Winnell wants, the land claims, but I'll show you the ordinances first. Okay, so those 5 Sixtus brothers, they come under the inheritance here. Oh, I should not do that. I should know better to do that now. All right, I'll go to share screen. I can't really share these things now, but if you're on the YouTube, so that was a naturalisation document. The one that I've just showed you was the naturalisation document over in New Zealand, which was the movement of it was the movement of Queen of Princess Sophia over into New Zealand and the Commonwealth countries, and there are many ordinances with our names on them. Okay, so that naturalisation process that happened, the exact thing that happened to Princess Sophia, where they stripped her of her German nationality, they made her an empty vessel, and then they made her a subject. They did the same thing to King Augustus of Hanover, where he renounced his German. He was no longer a German citizen, but he was a subject. So you're an empty vessel. You're not a citizen of any country. You're only a subject. And by only being a subject, then you can ascend to the throne in certain foreign countries that come under the subject law, such as the British throne. So that's all what's going on here. Now this is called the, this one here, I want you to look at the number. This one here is the, I don't know if you can, I'm posting these up here, but I don't know if you can get into them, but I'm going to post up the video later. But this is called the Victoriae Reginae, and then this is the Union Bank of Australia. Now, John Wanoa is saying, where do you get your titles from? And I'm saying that I'm not saying that but I'm saying that these people in the parliaments and in everything are stealing our titles from the 5 Sixtus brothers. They're stealing and they're transferring all the Queen Victoria over to King Augustus, and they're stealing it through these fake lines that they've created. Now, the Union Bank of Australia, you look here, it's a number 1, and I want you to pay particular attention to the number up there. It's number 382, and this is the establishment of a joint stock company it was called the Union Bank of Australia, which later on became the Union Bank of Australia and New Zealand, which is the ANZ Bank. And it's very, very significant and sneaky why they had to choose this word Aotearoa, because it starts with the letter A and then it's got ANZ, and so then it comes up, instead of being Australia and New Zealand Union Bank, it suddenly becomes Aotearoa New Zealand Union Bank. They've separated from Australia, they've stolen the bank, and they're trying to put it into the transvestites, into one thing, instead of the separate, how it was supposed to be, where you had the labour, you had the land, and you had the labour, you had the male, and you had the female, and the male couldn't do anything without the female, and the female couldn't do anything without the male. They were married together. It was a sanctified marriage under Almighty God. It cannot be separated, cannot be divorced, cannot be violated. But Brian Tamaki, if you want to talk about marriage and the violation of marriage, this marriage cannot, absolutely, under God, cannot be violated by any divorce and transvestite, third party, male, female, hybrid, he, her, she, him, they, them, hybrid. It is an abomination to God. And you can't do it. And I'm here to protest and say, now look at the number here, which is 382, and you'll see the numbers 383, it'll go down to 384, 385. This is an affidavit, 386. Notice that it's a number 1. I want you to remember that it's a number 1, because that is very important. It's coming up soon. I'm going to tell you why that number 1 is important. 386, here's the establishment of the Union Bank of Australia. And then over here, number 1, 387. And then you'll see the number 388, which is a number 2. Right? Remember that, number 2, very important. And then this is the people, AB, which is the Aboriginals, and us, C, D, E, F, G, H. Sue Gray has already put through several court documents, dubious court documents, using all of these letters and refusing to use the names in her court documents. And it's just a sneaky little thing that they're just putting in documents, just continuing the fraud. And I'm saying, so on that side, I'm standing together with John Wanoa. I'm saying absolutely correct. Now, you can go down to here, and then, so you see here, it's a number 2 on a 388, and it says to the persons annexed, and then, you won't be able to see that. I'll have to stop the share. So that is 388, okay? 388, and then we'll stop the share, and I'll go to a new share, going back to the German Settlers Act, which is here. And what you will see here, this is an affidavit that I'm showing you all. What you will see here is that goes to from 388 on the number 1 Union Bank, and it will go to 389 in the schedules of the Union Bank. However, just remember, this people here, Conrad, these Langs here are not of the same bloodlines. So he wouldn't even got in there. He got in there, he's a false bloodline because he married the widow. And then he attached all his children onto the widow. Now, whether New Zealand picked up on this or not, I don't know. But I'm telling you now, he got with the widow, and then they claimed the Sixtus children, and the Sixtus children were all under the age of 21. They were not of the correct age to be able to take charge of their resources that were given to them. And it's been, I will tell you something, it's been passed down to the false widow ever since then, including to my own mother is a widow and had other children, sorry, my half brothers, but she had other children, and then the ones, so she became the widow and she transferred everything into her hands away from my father, because all of us children were under the age of 21. We were not able to claim it. And so it was a perfect storm, and she's claimed it. And then where she sent it, God only knows where she sent it, but I'm only claiming my subject status. So they're a number 2. And then you can go here. I want to show you the, hang on. That's the naturalized. So the Naturalization Act, then you will see, comes under the New Zealand King. And what they did, do you remember what I just told you about Sophia? All right, so I told you just about Sophia. Well, Thomas Wakanene, his name was only Nene, he did exactly the same thing. He became an empty vessel, right? And he took the name Abraham Kaiser, and then he made himself a subject, and then that's how he entered the realm. And he did his on the 28th of December 1844. The German settlers did theirs in 1843, and so they all ascended. They all came from the issue of Sophia. So if you can just use that as a background, right? I want you to use that as a background. And now I'm going to show you something. Now, if you're on my YouTube, you can only listen. But if you're on my Zoom, you're going to be able to see the documents, and I'll post up the YouTube later as an affidavit. I wanted to do this live, and I'm also going to post it up later, and I think you'll be able to see the forms. Now, here is, I'm going to read to you Hobson, what Hobson said when Hobson came in to form the new government outside of the Augustus line. So all you've got to kind of remember, how you've got to kind of remember that is that we don't need to use the names. Let's just not confuse things, right? We had a king, right? And that king was the king of 2 kingdoms, both Hanover and the United Kingdom. So he was the king of both of those, right? And then he had one son, and then that son split those 2 kingdoms. Rather than being one king of 2 kingdoms, he split it as being one king, and then he created one king and one queen for each kingdom. One of the kingdoms was a king of the Almighty God, of the man, and one was the yin and the yang, was the female line of Queen Victoria of the Labours, because the earth is God, right? The earth is God, and the man in the sperm in the ball bag is God. And why is the sperm in the ball bag God? because it can't ever be created. It only can be done by whoever does it. That's not the same as the female. The female's womb can be recreated. They can create incubators. And all they've got to do is get that sperm and still get that cell, and they can do all sorts of things. But one of the things that they can't do is the sperm. So the sperm is God, right? And then the female is the labor. She creates the fruits. And it's the fruits of the labor that provides the income and provides all of the commerce, which goes, well, the land, the man is the earth, and the earth is the man, because ashes to ashes and dust to dust. When you die, you go back to the dust, then the plants grow up, and then you're all grown up from there. And we are the world. We literally are the world. We are the earth. Everything on it has come from thousands and billions of years of our skins and cells and all of that. So then they had to have the land, which is of the God, and then they had the female, which was the labors, and it was the labors that were able to create commerce and money. So the one king changed to be two, right? And then Ernest Augustus got thrown out by the Germans, and some stuff went on there. Queen Victoria carried on, and Ernest Augustus was the first one in New Zealand. And decolonisation is where you're removing the monarch that came in and going back to the original monarch. That's what they're trying to do. And then, but what we're saying here is that when Queen Sophia and King Augustus went to the court in 1957 or something, he did exactly what I did. He went into the court, declared himself a subject, right? And the court said no. It went all the way to the House of Lords. The House of Lords said that that applies to any issue of Princess Sophia. So that's any New Zealand Maori and any New Zealand Anglo-German descended people that have come from Princess Sophia, if they're not a Catholic and they're not a Muslim. No offense to them, but if you're Muslim, you go under the Muslim Allah Akbar. And if you're Catholic, you go under the Holy Pope. And if you're Protestant, you have something else. And so he made himself Augustus, so they want to send it back to him. But they want to remove, and so so this is what Hobson said. Where's Hobson? Right, I'm going to read this to you. John 101. I'm reading it to you. This is an affidavit to any of the kings on any of the Mariahs on the 26th of August. Here is my sworn natural affidavit of I, Catherine Ann Sextus, do declare that I am of the pure blood issue of Princess Electorate Sophia with the IA of Hanover, who became a subject of the British United Kingdom through her and through her son, King George I. I, Catherine Ann Sextus, do declare under William Hobson, early administration, on the 14th of January 1840, New Zealand was annexed to the British Crown initially as an extension of the colony of New South Wales. On the 16th of November 1840, a letters patent royal charter was issued. In May 1841, Governor Hobson proclaimed the letters patent, thereby establishing New Zealand as a separate colony and giving him the power to constitute the courts and appoint the judges. Listen carefully. Of the first 6 ordinances, remember that I just showed you the ordinance number 1, which was the Union Bank of Australia constituted with the Supreme Court. That was ordinance number 1. Ordinance number 2 was all the people on the St. Paul's ship who had their national, just like Princess Sophia, had their nationality stripped from their bodies, became the empty vessel, and the issue of my body became a subject of Almighty God, not a citizen, not even a national, only a subject and faithful child under Almighty God. Okay, the defender of the faith. And I'm in the courts defending the faith as we speak, because that's what God wanted me to do, and that's why I was put on this earth, to let you all know. Now, so that was the ordinance number 2. Ordinance number 3. Now, in the ordinance number 3 was Abraham Kaiser, who had he was an empty vessel, and he didn't have nationality, he didn't have citizenship, he was just a natural being of God under Almighty God, made himself a subject under the issue of Princess Sophia. And then he ascended in New Zealand on our ship together with us, and he also became privy to that Union Bank of Australia of the labours of the land, and the labour, and that the male Abraham Kaiser and the female married together and had the labour and the land to be together. This is why you islanders, you're just not even the picture, mate. If you're on the islands, you're not in this marriage. You cannot be a mistress and come into the marriage. You cannot. It's an abomination to God. So that was the 3rd ordinance. There were some other ordinances, but I'm not going to tell you just yet. He says the first 6 ordinances passed by the first session of the Legislative Council. Of those, 2 of the ordinances will set up the courts, and the 3rd retrospectively validated all acts, including judicial, undertaken since the letters were actually drawn up in November of 1840. The treaty was drawn up on November of 1840, and an Attorney General was appointed who provided legal advice to the government and drafted the ordinances presented to the Legislative Council by the Governor, as well as proclamations and government legal notices. And then that is when we ceased, at that moment, New Zealand ceased to be a dependent of Australia or England or anyone. It became separate, but all people that were born or descended from pre-1846, the issue of your body or the issue of my body to your body or their body to our body, we all remain subjects, and we never truly become citizens. We can renounce our citizenship at any time and simply be subjects under Almighty God. That's what we can do. And you don't have to be ruled by anyone. And you'll be ruled as a subject under your indubitable right of Almighty God. And nobody has power over you anymore after that. The Colonial Secretary ensured that judicial officers, the Supreme Court judges, resident magistrates, were properly accommodated, staffed, and equipped to carry out their duties. And then they started the statistics of crime and judicial proceedings, and they were kept in the Colonial Secretary's office. And then in 1844, they also they made a native exemption order that recognised and formalised the New Zealand Maori principle of utu in court proceedings for certain offences. In 1848, due to all of that being established, after that, between 1848 and 1853, New Zealand was divided into the provinces of New Ulster and New Munster. New Ulster being the north and New Munster being the south. And the former executive councillors of New Zealand became the executive councillors of the province of New Ulster, and new executive councillors were appointed for New Munster. The organisation was duplicated in each province. So that is the history of where my titles come from. Now, I'm going to be getting a lot of flack from all of those people that are trying to decolonise and transfer over. People are messaging me, but I really can't see it. I've only got to do my affidavit. Now, I want you to pay attention to, can go to the window of, now all of that was done pre-1846, right? And then I want you to looking up here, and what you'll see here is the, now I don't know if you can get into this, but I'll post it up just to see if you can, but you should be able to go into there. If you go into there, you'll see all of the acts and databases. And so this one is 1846. It will go to the Native Land Purchase Act of 1846. And what you go and look on there, and you can read it. And this says here, an ordinance to provide for the prevention by summary proceeding of unauthorized purchases and leases of land. Now, what you'll see here is that it says here, it says here, if any person shall, after the passing of this ordinance, purchase, or by writing or otherwise agree to purchase any estate or interest in land from any person of the native race, or shall by writing or otherwise agree with such person for the purchase of cutting timber, or right of mining, or right of pasturage, or for the use or occupation of land. This was going to forbid them from doing that, but it says any person after the passing of this ordinance, John Wanoa, after the passing, and that all of you will remember is that my ordinances were passed in 1843, and Abraham Kaiser's ordinance was passed in 1843, in December of 1843. Okay, so how do we think about that when we go back to our kings? If we've got King Nene of New Zealand is very, very similar to Princess Sophia. King Nene was neither a citizen nor was he a national, and he was not a subject, all right? And then we've got King William IV and King Ernest Augustus, who came to New Zealand in 1814, that line. And then we've got Princess Sophia, who had ascended and made her issue a subject, and anybody issued from her to be a subject, but he was a male. King George I was the issue of Princess Sophia, and so therefore he was a subject due to his birth of his mother, right? And if you go to the King Augustus's line of 1957, where the the Prince of Monaco renounced his German citizenship, went to the court to get a declaration to declare himself a subject, just like I did. The court said, no, you can't do that. And then the appeals court said, yes, you can. And then the House of Lords said, yes, you can. You've got the decolonization movement where they were trying to remove Queen Victoria's line and place it back into Augustus's line, right? Then we've got Nene, who became a subject of Princess Sophia. Although he didn't have the bloodline, he had declared it. He was the first king of New Zealand, and so he had to do a similar thing as what she did. He was outside of the subject status. He used the issue of his body, which had no nationality, no citizenship, and he invited Almighty God into the issue of his body and other chiefs' bodies together with him. And all of their issue after that were subjects. So Queen Victoria's line almost ended right then and there, almost. And then the body of Christ entered Nene and the other chiefs, all right? But they were only able to do that through the German settlers line that is directly descended from the Sophia line and made them subjects through the issue of her body. And it was those two that were married, those two issues that had this marriage through the treaty. And so what they're trying to do now is break up the marriage, and they're trying to get Nene's line back to Augustus and then married off to a new wife over in the Philippines and over on the islands. So I'm calling out to all the Nene line to come in and honour the marriage of our ancestors and hold on to the labours, which is connected to the lands. So you've got to do that. I don't know how we're going to do it. So as part of my affidavit, I'm going to read out the lands that were given to us through the Union Bank of Australia and given. Now, I can't share this in the YouTube, but I can read it and you can listen. And I'll read the lands, which is where John Wanoa, I suspect, is getting all of his land titles all come out of here. So I'm going to read them. These all belong to the 5 Sixtus brothers that their bloodline was stolen. I'll just read them because I don't understand them. Land Corporation Limited, Nelson. Renewable Leases, Sixtus, Section 16, Block 4 in the Takaka Survey District. This was renewed over from 1918 to 1962. Next one, Nelson Land District, Sections 14 and 15, Block 4, which is really basically King William IV. Takaka Survey District also, Marginal Lands Advanced for E.J. Sixtus, who he got his back broken, and we suspect that his widowed wife stole all the resources and gave it to the new man that she married, just like Josephine Elizabeth, who married Conrad Lang. See, Conrad Lang married the widow and had children and stole and leached onto the Sixtus line. And the same thing happened here to E.J. Sixtus. He was severed, and then the widow leached onto his line. That's why they're all got to be empowered. The New Zealand Forest Service permits licenses under the Sixtus, Parsons and Hayes, Umutoi, and the Umutoi through the State Forest and the 24 Block 7 Umutoi Survey District of H.W. Jensen's milled area. There was a slice through there. I'm still sorting all of this out. The reports on the prospecting, mining and inspection of Block 4 of Takaka Survey District, the Canaan Takaka Hills under the Sixtus Brothers Lime and Marble Carpentaria Explorations, Matthew and Bullion Consolidated Silver Mining. All the gold and all the silver, it's mine. It's mine. And the Newport's Limestone Quarry, Takaka Limeworks under C.L. Sixtus, who is also, I think, a false line. Then we've got here the mines filing system, the New Zealand Forest Service land transactions under the Sixtus Brothers and the Ruahine Forest State Forest, and the Sixtus Brothers and Son Sawmill number 337 of the Nelson Conservancy, the New Zealand Forest Service and Forest Management under the Sixtus Lodge, and the trustees of the Sixtus Lodge shall manage all of New Zealand's forestry system, and the Napier District Forest Service, all managed by the same trust, and the prospecting, mining and inspection of Block 4 of the Takaka Survey District, Canaan Takaka Hills, Sixtus Lime and Marble Carpentaria Explorations Company, Matthew and Bullion Consolidated Silver Mining Company. It all belongs to me. Newport Quarry of the Sixtus Brothers, Dawson Mackay's Limestone Quarry in Takaka, and the Mines Inspection Office of the Greymouth registered files. These are under restricted access. It's difficult to get into them. The Motueka Survey District, Section 14, Block 5, CL Sixtus and LE Sixtus, to the Thomas, and I don't know what that's about, something to do with Motueka, section for the ski leet or she light and gold, Canaan Takaka Hill for Edgar Sixtus, who is one of the Sixtus brothers, but it depends if he's been stolen from the corrupted line of that Conrad Lane. That's the thing, there's a corrupted line. They were the widows, and the children have corrupted. The Mines Inspection Office, Greymouth registered files. The Lot 47 of the Deposited Plan, Sixtus Vernon Lewis. Now, Vernon Lewis is attached to that Shane Reety, Pearl Reety, and all the Reeties that I suspect, I can't be sure, but I believe that they come off a corrupted Vernon Lewis Sixtus line. And I'm still going through all of this, but I'm only just announcing this today as part of my affidavit, because I've only got a couple of weeks. I'm in the court and they're moving too fast. I'm just making my affidavit. I'm saying to you that I lay claim to all of these lots, all the gold, all the silver, all the marble, all the limestone, all the forestries, all the coal, anything that's in this affidavit, anything that's in there, I, Catherine Ann Sixtus, do claim my right to it through my subject status. I renounce my New Zealand citizenship. I renounce all citizenships of any citizenship. I renounce any Aotearoa citizenships. I claim my subject status under Almighty God and get my feet onto the land with King Nene, who is the issue, who is the adopted issue of Princess Sophia, the adopted issue, the mining prospectus license of the Sextus of the Takaka Mountains, the Sextus Overflow Deviation in Waimea College, Bajent's Corner, and the Main Street, Brightwater. I don't understand all of this. I'm not a land person. The acquisition of private lands and the acquisition of all Crown lands by GLR Sextus Ruahine State Forest in the 24 of the Wellington Conservancy, another Sextus, I don't know, the Wellington Repository, and the index to the state coal minefields, all state coal minefields. So I'll just review to you that I do lay claim to the state coal minefields under my subject status. I lay claim to all private lands, all acquisition of Crown lands under the Sextus Trust. I claim ownership to the Waimea College and the Bajent's Corner and the Main Street Brightwaters. The prospecting, all mining prospective licenses are belonging to the Sextus brothers and the Sextus, which is me, under the subject status of Almighty God of Princess Sophia, never mind Augustus, Princess Lot 47, all of the deposited plans, all of the scheelite and the gold and the Canaan Mountains and the Takaka Mountains and the mines of the Takaka Mountains and all of the Motueka survey districts and all blocks, 5s and sections 14s and all limestone quarries of the Takaka Mountains and the Newport quarry of the Takaka Mountains and the block 5 of the Takaka survey district and all of the lime and the marble and the bullion and the consolidated silver from Matthew Bullion. I lay claim to the entire New Zealand Forest Service, the entire forest management under the Sextus Trust and the Sextus Lodge and the Napier District Office and the forest filing system and all the Sextus brothers and their sons of the surveys and the conservancies of the Nelson Trust and all of the New Zealand Forest Services land transactions of the Ruahine Forest Trust and the limestone quarries of the Takaka Lime Works and the prospecting and mining and inspection and the Block 4 of the Takaka Mountains and the consolidated silver mining companies and all forest services under the Umutoi Forest, State Forest and the Block 7s and the Block 4 and the marginal lands and the land corporations of Nelson's and the Section 16 Block 4. Now, I will just say to you that I'm almost finished here. What I'm saying to you is that I have not as yet gone to collect all of the land titles as yet, and I have not as yet been to the court to establish, but I will just say the last bit in the finishing up, that I've done that as an affidavit to John Wanoa and all of the people down at the marae, and I shall type up the affidavit and I shall be sending it to that particular marae and letting them know that I do state my claim. Now, I'm happy to have John Wanoa or any Sue Gray, who's been going all through my ancestry since 2012. Sue Gray has been entering my ancestry, and I know that my brother is one of my brothers who is a beneficiary to the trust. I know that he's turned around and given 40% of that trust to his adopted son while he's kept this trust from me. This trust has been hidden from me for my entire life since my father, John Leslie Sextus, My father, John Leslie Sextus, died when I was 14 years old, and this trust has been hidden from me, from all of my brothers, and from the widowed wife and my grandparents and my auntie. They've all hidden this trust from me, and I'm the only uncorrupted line left in it. My brother married a Catholic, and his children are Catholics, and they have no claim to it. If they're Catholics, they're out. If you're a Catholic, you're out. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Thank you. I'm trying my best. I haven't been able to read the land titles. I'm not that clever. I am the village idiot. I haven't found the land titles, but I suspect that all the land titles that are being claimed to on the marae on the 26th of August are the land titles out of the Five Sixtus Brothers Trust, which they're trying to steal it. They want to steal it from us, and they want to steal it from our New Zealand Maori, and they want to steal it from the New Zealand Anglo people that were planted into the soil in 1843. They want to steal it and they want to skip it back over Queen Victoria, and then they want to put it into the vessel of King Ernest Augustus, who in 1957 made him, he severed his German nationality, completely severed it. He married Princess Caroline of Monaco, and and they severed the German nationality, and then he claimed his subject status through Princess Sophia. That's what he did. He claimed it, right? And now he wants to. So Princess Sophia came in. She did that in 1705, right? So the Prince and Princess of Orange came into England, and they removed their German nationality, and they entered themselves under Almighty God as being not connected to the earth. They severed themselves from the earth, right? Then they entered into England, and then they, as subjects under Almighty God, neither citizen, neither national of nothing, only just in the pure under Almighty God, right? And then Princess Sophia, she came in and did the same thing and severed herself, and then she became a subject under Almighty God. And then King George the First, who it was Sophia's son, right? Not to be confused with King George over in Hanover. King George the First over in England became the issue of Sophia, right? And then Augustus has renounced his German nationality because he lost the monarchy line was ended. And so he's come back around, renounced his nationality, and he's plugged in back into the UK through Sophia. And the court's trying to stop him, but he wasn't able to be stopped, right? And then through that, he's claiming that Queen Victoria had no right to the line. So he's cutting out Queen Victoria, and he's going back to the Augustus line as a subject and to be the King of England. If you remember the very first king, who was the monarch of two kingdoms. So that, and then the monarch of two kingdoms became two monarchs of two separate kingdoms, right? And then during all this time, the monarch of Augustus came into New Zealand, and then that line died. He died, right? And then that's why my ancestor was called Fried Rich. Friedrich, and then my grandfather got called Died Rich. My grandfather was called Died Rich because the Friedrich line died out and you all came under Sophia's line, but the subject status could not be severed. All right? And then we were attached on to Nene. So Nene became our life force, right? And they want to remove that and give it back to Augustus and cut out Nene's subject status. So this is going to be interesting. I'm still not understanding how all this goes about, but this is a very interesting, there's a whole royal holy war going on right in you. Thank you, Sharon. There's a whole holy war going on right in New Zealand as we speak. All right. Now I'm coming up to the end of my video and I'll tell you what's happening to recap. John Wanoa, a Catholic, all right? John, you can't claim subject status. Now, he's upset because he says, well, I've been doing with this for 50 years, Kate Floss, you bitch. And he's right. He's been doing it for 50 years. And then he's coming in and he's saying, well, how come you, Kate Floss, just turned up after 2 years and you want to get in there and get your foot in the door? And he's saying, well, I've done it for 50 years. And who the hell are you, he's saying. And I didn't have any excuse for that because I agree with you, Johan Wanoa. I agree with you that you've done all that work. It's your life, but you want to give it to a Filipino and to a Catholic. You can't do that anyway, John. You can't be subject. How are you going to be a subject and be a Catholic? Because Ernest Augustus comes under the subject line, and he made himself a subject. And it clearly says, John, it clearly says that to the issue and the subject status under Almighty God can only be given to those who are not Catholic. Because if you're Catholic, you go under the Pope's staff. If you're Muslim, you go under the Muslims' staff. So you've got to know which lane you're in. And you're in the wrong lane. I don't deny that this is your, it's yours, it's not mine. But what do you want me to do? Because you want to take my line and strip it and give it to a transvestite line. That's what you want to do. So I don't know what's the answer to that, except to say that I just am saying that this is my claim to my line, and it doesn't mean that you can't do your claim. You can still claim the Queen Victoria Trust, but you're a man. A man cannot marry a man. You, John Wanoa, are a man. And how are you going to be the Queen Victoria Labour line out of the woman and be married to the land line of King Augustus? It's not possible. It just isn't. So you have to you don't have to do anything. You can be a homosexual. You can be a homosexual and suck dick. John, go and be a homosexual and suck dick, because that's what you have to do. You cannot take the woman's Queen Victoria line and have a dick and marry it to the Augustus line who's got a dick also. It can't be two dicks. It's got to be a dick and a fanny. That's the way it works. So sorry to all you people, but that's right. She's laughing. It's true. You can't. You cannot do it. So I have to watch my language, but there are a few words that I'd like to say. It's not my fault, John, because unless you want to be, it is a crack up. It's a crack up. Game over. Unless you go and cut your penis off, John. Go and cut your penis off. And even then, a man can't be a woman. So you can't take the Queen Victoria or the Sophia. That's always what was wrong. And so that's just the way. That's why on the coins you had a man and you had a woman. That you had the land and you had the labour. That's right. Who's here? Mary West. This right was hidden from you. You didn't know this. Yes, I only, and I'm thankful to you, John. I would never have discovered it. And they've lied because my oldest brother, now here's, right, I'm going to tell you the court cases that are coming up. We'll get out of this filthy talk. So, John, I'm sorry, and I'm deeply sorry. And I only just turned up 2 years ago, and it's really shitty that it's turned out like this. And what do you want me to do? What can I do? So I went to the court and I claimed myself as a subject. And Justice Brown, he said, you're not a subject. Now, here's this name, Robin, Dorothea. Now, Dorothea, so Dorothea is the false, Josephine Elizabeth married to Conrad Longy, or Lang, or Longy. So Josephine originally married Friedrich Sixtus, and she had the 5 Sixtus brothers, and then she married to Conrad Lang, so she's the widow, and then she had further children, but he had other children. They've clipped those children onto a false ordinance. Now, I'm not going to go over that today, but onto a false ordinance. One of the people on there was a Dorothea, but my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, is married to, Dorothea got married to a Sextus. So they married a cousin or something like that. And so that corrected the line. All right. So his Conrad Ferdinand's and Josephine Elizabeth's, one of their children or their future children's, married into the Sixtus brother line, and that corrected the line so that they were in the right line. But there's someone that come along called Robin, which is like Robin Hood, and Robin. Well, Robin married my oldest brother. She is the second wife. And the first son from my oldest brother is a Catholic. So he's out of the line, right? But she, Robin, claims to be, and so she already had a son to another marriage. That son is claiming from my oldest brother's line. So we call her Robin Roy. She's Robin Roy, and robbing the Sextus line through her false son, who is not a bloodline. 2, he's not even a line to Princess Sophia. So he should be out of the line. Now, I want you, the reason why I'm telling you about Dorothea and Robin is very important. I went into the court and I've claimed my subject status. Justice Brown said, you're not a subject, you're a citizen. And as I've just showed you that is not correct and he is wrong. And I've been appealing, all that's in the court. Now, my case is set for the 16th of October. On the 16th of October is when Nene ascended to his subject status through Sophia. So Nene, that was done on the 16th of October. And the court has set the case for my appeal for the 16th of October. Now, we've got to watch Billy T. Kahika. Do I say that right? Billy T. Kahika has also entered the court using the 1990 pretended title of the Crown. And Sue Gray, I've got the evidence here. I can't show it to you because it's too small. But Sue Gray, who's teamed up with Brian Tamaki, right? Sue Gray, much love, Kate. You better go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Just tell him about the court documents. Good night. Thank you for supporting me. Right, I'm just going to finish this up with the court documents. So Billy T. Kahika has entered the court, and then his case is set for the 10th of October. So he's entering the 1990 Bill of Rights, the false Bill of Rights, which has been done through King Augustus, right? And then I'm set for the 16th of October, and then another woman entered the court called Robin Dorothea, and she entered the court, and the judge said to her, Miss Patterson, she said, I am not Miss Patterson, I am Robin Dorothea. Robin Dorothea. And Robin Dorothea was ordered to sit down, and so Robin Dorothea has to sit down until after my court case. She's coming in on, I think she's coming in on around about the 21st of October or something like that. So she's Robin Dorothea, which is Dorothea is the Dorothea that married into the Sextus line to correct the bloodline, and she's like Robin Roy and Robin Dorothea coming in to rob the line and to shut it all down. All right? So she's trying to claim that she's not a citizen, and she's trying to get it back. So there's all these court cases are going on. And so Brian Tamaki is announced that he is going to create an Egypt. He's going to create an Egypt within the soil of New Zealand, right? And previously he said that this is exactly what has happened. It's a really clear and simple story that the Egyptians owned all the land, and the Egyptians said to the Israelis and all of the other people, you come into our country and you work and you do your labors and you slave and you build everything. And then once everything was built, and they said, we'll share it. Once it was all built, the Egyptians, those Israelis didn't leave. The Egyptians kicked them out. They said, we don't want you anymore. We've got the commerce. We've got all the buildings. We've got everything now. This is our land, and you have to get out. This is exactly the thing that's happening to the Anglo-Saxon. They said, you've built the hospitals, you've built the schools, you've built all the roads, you've built everything, and we no longer have any use for your slave labor. You've got to get out. And if you know what happened in the Bible, the people went down and the Almighty parted the Red Seas for them, and all the gold and all the silver and all the coal and all of the riches, everything went with them. And as they walked out of the seas closed behind them, and the chariots were not having. Now, this is John down over there on that marae, where they want to get all the gold and all the silver. They want to put it into AI. They want to put it into his banking account, and they want to send it to his floozy over in the Philippines and his floozies over in Ireland and Scotland. And we will never, ever, ever be able to catch it again. And I'm saying I'm going to honour my marriage to Nene, and we're going to keep it all here in New Zealand. And it's not to be going into this AI bank account where we don't know, because that's what's going to happen. The seas are going to close, and the people that own the land, the proper people that own the land, are not going to be able to get all of that gold and silver and everything. Is all going to be stolen from the land and put into Augustus over there in Monaco, and it's going to be in the male monarch and not in the female labours of the monarch, if you can all understand what I'm trying to say to you. So I'm not actually sure whose side I'm on, but there's my affidavit, and that's the end of the video for today. I'll see you all later.